Alright YouTube, so for tonight's video I want to show you my two Desert Eagle pistols. The first one is a recent acquisition. This is my IMI produced Israeli Desert Eagle in 357 Magnum. This is a Mark 1 variant that was produced in the late 1980s from what I can tell. This, as you can see, has no accessory rail on top. Back in those days the Mark 1s only had a 3/8 inch wide rib, and you could theoretically mount or clamp to that to mount a like a laser or some sort of optic. Back in those days the Mark 1 doesn't have any serrations on the slide release. It also has a teardrop safety, which I like. There's no hook to it. It's kind of smooth. There's 3 small serrations there. The grip on the Mark 1 has the shield for IMI, Israel Military Industries. One thing to note about the Mark 1s is that they have a very deep imprint or roll mark for all the information on the pistol. Very cool. Like I said, this is a recent acquisition. Purchased this. The guy, I think he had owned it quite a long time. He shot it very little, probably less than a couple boxes, if that, through this pistol in its existence. So very nice condition. Took it apart yesterday, cleaned it up. Everything's nice and tight. Everything's as it should be. I was kind of worried purchasing, since it's an older model. I didn't really know what I was getting into with the older Desert Eagles. I didn't know if there's any issues or anything to look out for, but these things are made really well. The machinemanship is very nice. I could only see machining marks in a couple places on the pistol. Everything else is finished very well. So kind of get an overview there. Here's what it looks like from under. It looks like it's a cast steel frame. I'll turn it around here. So you can see the safety's ambidextrous. Big hammer there. Safety activated. Back to fire. That has not been used very much there, if any. You can kind of see these are they're kind of like a plastic rubber. They're not really soft, but they are kind of grippy for what they are. Made in Israel. Magnum Research, Minneapolis, Minnesota marking on this side. This one is in 357 mag. Back in those days the Mark 1 was only made in 357 and 44 Magnum. Desert Eagle is a single action pistol. It's not a double action, so similar to the way a 1911 works. Got your single action, you got your mainspring, got your hammer, except your safety is mounted to the slide. Desert Eagle pistols have a polygonal rifled barrel similar to the Glock. They're not button rifled, and from what I've heard, the reason they went with the polygonal rifling is because it increases the pressure of the bullet sealing to the barrel, which helps with the gas pressure to activate the slide and recharge the pistol. So since these are gas operated, they need all the gas they can get to run the pistol. And there's also a dual spring, action spring inside. I'll pull this back, kind of show you. These are really hard to activate, or to pull the slide back anyway. You can kind of see the little feed ramp there. That's the frame, and then that's the barrel lead there into the chamber. The Desert Eagle has a bolt just like an AR-15, very similar. It's got an ejector, it's got an extractor over here. It's got this little thing that helps the bolt cam, little spring-loaded detent there. It's kind of a work of art as far as engineering goes. Your dual recoil springs are down in here. You've got a gas plug that sits right down in there. Kind of see it resting down in there. It's mounted to the slide. I'm going to get you a good picture of it there. Like I said, this one's in really nice shape for the age that it is. It's probably sat and been handled a little bit more than it's ever been shot. Sights are pretty basic. They're just, I guess you could drift these if you needed to adjust them. They're non-adjustable fixed sights. Kind of a serrated ramp there. I'm going to see if I can get you. You can't really see the rifling because it's polygonal. There we go. So the Mk1 Desert Eagles were produced into the, I believe, into the early 90s or late 80s. There is some internal differences with the Mk1. The gas plug, which you've seen on the slide just now, or under the slide, essentially at the front, is kind of pinned there. Okay, there's like a roll pin that kind of holds it in place. That was changed later on the Mk19. So little difference there, but really not a whole lot. If you notice, this part is very narrow. On the newer Mk19s, you'll have a 7/8 inch wide rib here, and of course you'll see the 2 weaver spots, and we'll kind of get into that. Anyways, this is the Mk1. Pretty nice pistol. A feat of engineering. Alright, so next we're going to get into the Mk19 Desert Eagle. This next one I've had for several years. This is the Mk19 model, and it's in 50 Action Express. As you can see right off the bat, the roll mark is much lighter. I don't really even know if that's a roll mark. I guess it appears to be a roll mark. Maybe it's laser etched. I really can't tell, but I kind of like the old deep rolled mark on the old Mk1. Notice right away on the grips, this is an Israeli model. This is the Israel Weapon Industries model. Okay, so you got your IWI there on the grips. If you notice right away the differences on the Mk19 model, it has the serrated slide release. It has kind of a hook safety there, so you can kind of get a little more grip on it to activate the safety. This particular model is, I would say, from the mid-90s. Maybe, not sure. Maybe late 90s, maybe even early 2000s. But this has the weaver style notches in it. The width on this is 7/8 of an inch. And if you can tell right away between the two, if you notice the slides there where the breech face meets the chamber, you can tell that the slides are a little bit of difference. The Mk19 is a little bit wider up on top. Okay, gonna get those two together there. All right, and the reason it's wider on the Mk19, it's to accommodate the heavier caliber, like the 50 Action Express. So if you're going to put a conversion barrel in, like to go to 44, then you're going to need to use the Mk19 models. Okay, and that's all the way up till now. The Mk19 nowadays, you can even get them with Picatinny rail on the bottom and then the slotted rail on top, just kind of like an AR-15 upper. So they're a little more flexible today. However, there's nothing wrong with the older models, whether it be like this style or like the Mk1. They're both excellent pistols. There's no real issues with either one. They both function fine. You know, they're both very well made. And I'd give the nod in manufacturing to the old Mk1, but they're both excellent pistols. Very nice. Being that the slide is heavier and thicker, the barrel's thicker on top there, the Mk19 is a heavier pistol than the Mk1. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it around now. And also, of course, you get the barrel marking on this Mk19. All right, so you see there, Israel Weapon Industries, kind of a light roll mark, if you will, laser etching, not sure. made in Israel. I like the pistols that are made in Israel. I think that's kind of cool. So I don't know if that makes it any more valuable. I would buy a USA version, no problem, but I like that both of mine are Israeli made. So this has identical sights. These are not adjustable. To adjust windage, you would have to drift this rear sight. And there's the front sight as well. It's kind of a dovetail front. It's got the ramp. It's got the serrated ramp there for a front sight. And I guess you could drift that if you had to as well, but you really wouldn't want to. You'd want to drift the rear sight. On the Mk19, they changed the way the gas piston is retained. The two recoil springs kind of have a little notch that helps retain the gas piston and its position. So it's kind of a little bit of an improvement. However, it's really not much different. Obviously, they wouldn't really interchange with each other, as far as I know, between the different models, but they're very similar. There's not a lot of differences in these guns, in my opinion. It's got a little bit of oil there. I have to wipe my hand off. So this is the big bore 50. This is also has the polygonal rifling, if you see there. That's to increase pressure, gas pressure, as the bullet exits the barrel, which helps cycle the pistol. And that's a big bolt head there. So if you see the big bolt head there, see if I can get a better picture of that. When they designed this pistol, the 50 AE cartridge, they used the same rim diameter developing the cartridges as the 44 Magnum. So if you buy the 50 AE model, when you buy a 44 mag barrel, if you want to do a conversion in the magazines, you don't need to rebuy a bolt because they share the same rim diameter, 50 and 44. So the 50 rim diameter is actually smaller than the case diameter wise. So you can use the same bolt for the 44 and the 50, which is kind of nice. That was smart when they designed that to do that. These both have the AR-15 style bolts. Obviously not identical, however, very similar. Both gas operated pistols. And there's your lugs that kind of lock up. They go into the chamber there and they will lock in. The reason they do that, the reason they have to do this is because of the powerful pistol cartridge. You want a longer lockup versus, like a falling block or whatever style, other normal style semi-automatic pistol. You want something that is going to lock up longer, so your bullet has time to leave the barrel, the pressure reduces in the case, and then it extracts. So you buys a little bit of time, increases the pressure in here a little bit, uses that pressure, and then by the time that's happened, it's used that gas to recharge the pistol again. So you don't want high pressure as the case is being extracted, so that buys you a little bit of time in there with that rotating bolt that locks into the chamber. I probably didn't say that very well, but I guess you'll kind of know what I mean. That's the 50. Pretty cool. This one is a little bit heavier. And it's mainly because of this being wider, and of course the top being wider. If we compare both the Mk1 and the Mk19, there's the rear of each. They're actually very similar, except for the width. Both very well made pistols, very heavy. I believe they both have cast steel frames. All right, so I also want to talk about the magazines. For your 50 AE, the magazine holds 7 rounds. And there's one in the magazine right now. It's basically a straight wall case with your bullet up front there. That's a 300 grain Hornady jacketed hollow point. As you can see there, let's see if I can get rid of that reflection. The rim diameter is a little bit smaller than the case diameter. Same rim diameter as 44. And then the 50 compared to a 357 Magnum, there's both of those cartridges together. The big difference with the 357, obviously a lot smaller in diameter. The complicating factor for the 357 mag in an automatic pistol, or semi-automatic pistol rather, is that the rim, it's a rim cartridge. The rim is a larger diameter since it's primarily been developed for a revolver. Okay, so that kind of complicates things when you use it in a pistol, in a semi-automatic pistol. It has to feed out of a magazine. So the 357 magazine for the Desert Eagle holds 9 shots, and each one of those cartridges, since they're rimmed, let's get that to focus, they have to stack in front of one another. So when you load it, this rim is in front of the rim of the cartridge below it, right? So if that was to somehow get messed up, then you would have a malfunction. So this magazine is probably original to the gun. It's made in 1984. So I'm not sure when the gun was made, but I'm thinking it was in the 80s at some point. They probably made a lot of magazines ahead of time for the gun production. .357 being nominally, I think, about 150 some grains per bullet, and your 50 AE Action Express being up in the 300 grain range. Both very powerful cartridges. Obviously the 50 AE having quite a bit more energy due to the bullet weight, twice the bullet weight. Both essentially are Magnum cartridges due to their velocity and pressures. And there's both magazines. These magazines are kind of hard to get a hold of right now. They're kind of expensive, as everything in the gun world, especially collectible items like the Desert Eagle line. So hope you enjoyed watching the video. I just thought I'd take time to show these off. They're pretty cool pistols. They are, I'm not sure they're very useful, but they're fun to go out and shoot, and you know, you can shoot targets or whatever you want with them, really. But I'm not sure. They're very practical. Sometimes they cannot be reliable. They need to be tuned, like the magazine will need to be tuned to make it run correctly. You do need to grip these pistols pretty hard to cycle. And they do like hot ammo. So running light loads will typically induce malfunctions, in my experience, in the 50. And I've heard the same thing about the 357. So running good hot factory ammo and lubricating the pistol properly will be conducive to the gun running properly and reliably. So thanks for watching tonight. Hope you enjoyed the video, and take care. Please like, please subscribe. It helps a lot. Thank you.